The man chugs an entire bottle of water, but still feels parched. Seeing the dirty puddle ahead, his eyes instantly light up. He decisively shoves the woman beside him away and scrambles towards it, as if he hasn't had a drink in 10 years. The man jumps right into the puddle and begins to gulp it down, but he quickly senses something is wrong and starts screaming for help. By the time the others run over, the man has already become a cold corpse. Even more strangely, his appearance is terrifying, as if he had been sucked dry by something. Meanwhile, the police on the other side receive a report. A body has been found by the river. Shockingly, the condition of the body is identical to the first man's. Although he just died, he has turned into a desiccated corpse. This is too bizarre and eerie. But before the police can determine the cause of death, something more terrifying happens that night. More bodies have appeared, scattered all over the river. Overnight, the police have recovered a total of 58 bodies. Without exception, they all died in the same condition. And as time goes on, the number of bodies continues to increase. Through investigation, the police discover that all the deceased had visited a certain valley. So they speculate, could there be something wrong with the water quality there? So, Officer Wei immediately goes to the upstream valley to investigate. This place was originally a scenic area, and the water was exceptionally clear. During holidays, countless tourists would come to visit. The groundskeeper insists the water couldn't possibly be the problem. And he's right, in a way. Test results show the water has no signs of contamination. But one thing is very strange. Neither the groundskeeper nor the local villagers are friendly towards Wei. Since he has to continue the investigation, Wei doesn't leave that night. But no one is willing to let him stay. So he has no choice but to sleep in his car. However, after he falls asleep, people keep running past his car. When Wei wakes up the next day, this is the scene he sees. Not only that, similar bizarre incidents are happening all over South Korea. The rivers are full of corpses. Is it an infectious disease or some unknown virus? The higher-ups have no idea. The only thing they can confirm is that all victims exhibited symptoms of binge eating and extreme thirst before death. But no patients like this have been seen before. As time ticks by, there is still no progress, and the tragedy continues to unfold. The entire country is plunged into panic. Everyone is on edge, afraid they will be next. Until a few days later, there's finally a breakthrough. The police receive another report. A woman has drowned in her bathtub. In the water, they find some strange, thread-like worms. Upon closer inspection, they are identified as a parasite called the horsehair worm. Horsehair worms typically parasitize mantises or cockroaches. When it's time to lay eggs, they stimulate the host's brain, controlling it to jump into water. Then they emerge from the host to lay their eggs, thus continuing their species. However, this is the first time horsehair worms have been seen in humans. They are also much larger than ordinary horsehair worms. Therefore, the professor speculates this is a mutated species of horsehair worm. As for why they mutated, he doesn't know. The deceased must have been somewhere before they died and ingested water, allowing the eggs to enter their bodies. The hosts then unconsciously binge eat, providing the worms with abundant nutrients, until finally, they jump into water, and the adult worms burst out of the body, causing the host to die from shock and suffocation. Since all the victims went to the valley, it's clear the water in the valley is the problem. Previously, they only checked if the water was contaminated, but overlooked the worm eggs inside. A researcher confirms this with a microscope. Just as the professor said, it indeed contains a large number of horsehair worm eggs. The cause of death has been identified. The media immediately reports it and issues a warning. Any citizen who has visited the valley or is experiencing unexplained binge eating should immediately go to the hospital for an examination. After seeing the news, a man named Jae Hyuk rushes home without stopping. His wife and children had visited the valley a while ago and have recently shown the symptoms reported in the news. When he pushes the door open, he sees his wife and children holding glasses of water. Jae Hyuk quickly snatches the glass from his wife's hand and explains the situation to her. The family prepares to pack their things and head to the hospital immediately. But at this moment, the hospitals are already overcrowded, and the experts haven't found a treatment method. The horsehair worms attach firmly to the host's small intestine like leeches. If they are forcibly removed by physical means, the host's life would also be in danger. The only option right now is to take antiparasitic drugs, but this method is also quickly ruled out. A patient took a dewormer at home, but before the worms could be killed, the patient couldn't take it anymore. Just as Jae Hyuk is about to leave with his family, his wife, Ajin, seeing the water from the faucet, gets a greedy look in her eyes. She lunges madly towards the sink. Jae Hyuk rushes to stop her, but is pushed to the ground. He watches helplessly as his wife plunges her head into the water. The two children beside her are also desperately drinking water, and then try to run outside to find more. Fortunately, Jae Hyuk manages to stop them in time and forcibly restrains them. Meanwhile, the situation outside is even worse. The hospitals are in chaos. Everyone is acting like they're dying of thirst, losing their minds and searching for water everywhere. Others can't stop them. One by one, they jump into rivers, swimming pools, and even fish tanks on the street. After the chaos, the hospital is a mess. The few who were restrained were saved, but those who weren't all died tragically. Anywhere there is water, it's littered with corpses. The scene is truly horrifying. As of now, The death toll has reached over 3,000. The number of infected carriers exceeds 100,000. And this is just the data from official statistics. If uncounted infected individuals are included, the number could be as high as 1 million. To prevent more casualties, they can only gather all the infected for quarantine and mobilize the entire nation to develop a cure as soon as possible. Jae-hyuk also brings his wife and children to a shelter. Regarding what happened to his family, he feels extremely guilty. As an employee of a pharmaceutical company, he usually only thinks about work and making money, and hasn't taken good care of them. But he believes a cure will be available soon, and reassures his children that they will be okay. Back at the valley, the groundskeeper, seeing the tragic scene, tells Wei a secret. He says a few months ago, he saw some suspicious people by the stream. They put a few dogs in the water and then left. Then, those dogs died. Their state of death was terrifying. Worried about affecting the valley's business, the groundskeeper just cleaned up the bodies and didn't report it. Later, when summer vacation arrived, droves of people came to the valley to play. Seeing that no one showed any symptoms, the groundskeeper felt relieved. He never expected something so terrible would happen. At this time, good news finally comes from the hospital. An infected person took a certain deworming medicine, and all the horsehair worms in his body were killed. And he showed no signs of discomfort. Once this news breaks, people are suddenly filled with hope. They rush into pharmacies to buy the medicine. Jae-hyuk joins them, but is told by the pharmacy that there is no medicine at all. It turns out this dewormer, produced by Joa Pharmaceutical, had ceased production months ago due to poor sales. And Jae-hyuk happens to be an employee of that company. He hurries to the company and asks his colleague if there's any leftover dewormer. Unfortunately, there isn't. Even the head office doesn't have a single bit of inventory. He doesn't know if the distributors downstream still have any. He starts calling them one by one. Meanwhile, at the Joa Pharmaceutical headquarters, under pressure from government officials, the company prepares to restart the production line to mass-produce this dewormer. Fortunately, the raw materials are still in the warehouse. As long as the equipment doesn't fail, they can produce enough medicine in a short time. Unexpectedly, that very night, the horsehair worms strike again. This time, it's even more severe. Even with ample preparation, they couldn't prevent the tragedy from happening. The infected are like zombies, searching for any source of water throughout the city. After one night, it's another horrifying scene of bodies everywhere. What's worse, due to aging equipment at Joa Pharmaceutical, a forced restart caused the equipment to break down. They can no longer produce the dewormer as planned. The only option now is to release the formula and let other pharmaceutical companies take over production. But the company's executives refuse to release it, unless the government is willing to buy out their company. And the price is a staggering 500 trillion won. This is not a small sum. The government can't make a decision right away. At this moment, with the help of his colleague, Jae-hyuk finally manages to get a box of the dewormer at a high price. But as he walks out the door with the hard-won medicine, he is spotted by others. They swarm him, trying to snatch the medicine from his hands. In the end, no one gets it. During the struggle, the medicine is trampled into powder. His colleague calls to try and buy another box, but is told there are no more. With no other choice, Jae-hyuk can only post online, searching the world for the medicine. He finally finds another source. But when he follows the address sent by the scalper and finally arrives at the location, the police rush into the room just ahead of him and subdue the scalper. The dewormer has already been flushed down the toilet. Just as Jae-hyuk is by the toilet in despair, he suddenly gets a call from his brother, Wei. It turns out Wei is Jae-hyuk's younger brother. Following the lead from the valley's groundskeeper, he has been investigating the truth behind the horsehair worm outbreak. He discovered the whole incident was planned from the start, and the culprit is Joa Pharmaceutical. He threatened a researcher into revealing the truth. The mutated horsehair worms that can parasitize humans were their creation. At the same time, they also developed the dewormer that could kill the worms. Initially, the company only wanted to use the worm's host-controlling properties to develop a wonder drug for brain diseases. But the company executives, wanting to make a quick buck, deliberately released infected lab dogs into the valley, then bought up company stock in advance. Once the horsehair worm outbreak was widespread, they would immediately release the pre-produced dewormer, wait for the stock price to soar, and cash in. But no one expected things to spiral out of their control. It turns out they had prepared a lot of medicine in advance. Hearing this, Wei makes the researcher take him to get the medicine. The two arrive at a remote warehouse, where the dewormer is hidden. Jae-hyuk, who got the call, also rushes over. He's eager to enter the warehouse, but Wei tells him not to rush. His colleague is already on the way with a truck. But Jae-hyuk can't wait any longer. He decisively opens the door. Indeed, there's a lot of medicine inside. However, their joy is short-lived. The door is suddenly locked from the outside. Then, a window is smashed, and a Molotov cocktail is thrown in. The fire instantly engulfs all the medicine. Jae-hyuk desperately wants to rush in for the medicine, but is held back tightly by Wei as the fire grows larger, and the two are about to suffocate. The door is suddenly rammed open by a truck. Wei's colleague has finally arrived and saved them. By morning, the fire department has extinguished the fire, but unfortunately, all the medicine is destroyed. At this moment, Jae-hyuk is completely despondent. Must he just watch his wife and children die? In his grief, he suddenly remembers the company must still have the raw materials for the dewormer. With the raw materials, any pharmaceutical company can produce the drug. He quickly drives the truck with Wei towards the company headquarters. But on the way, he gets a call from his colleague. The situation has gotten even more serious. He sees bodies being constantly carried out of the shelter. It turns out that as time passes, even without water, the horsehair worms will forcibly break out of the body. Thinking of the safety of his wife and children, the two have to split up. Wei goes to the shelter to rescue his sister-in-law and kids, while he continues in the truck to get the raw materials. Meanwhile, Wei's partner is on her way back, having told her superior the whole truth. But a government official, unaware of this, is preparing to acquire Joa Pharmaceutical. Once the official signs the acquisition agreement, Joa's conspiracy will succeed. Fortunately, at the last second, the truth reaches the official's ears. Official stops signing. Meanwhile, the situation at the shelter is dire. People are dropping dead from time to time. Fortunately, Ajin and the children are still okay for now. But looking at the fire sprinklers overhead, Ajin gets a look of craving in her eyes. Imagining the feeling of a downpour of water on her body, she unconsciously licks her lips. Then she looks at the nearby fire alarm switch, wanting to pull it, to enjoy the drenching water. But for the sake of her children, she ultimately resists the urge. But when she turns her head again, she sees another woman with the same idea, who is already slowly approaching the switch. If she presses that switch, everyone will die. Ajin quickly rushes to stop her. The two instantly start grappling. Unexpectedly, the sound of the fight attracts other infected people. They all look up at the sprinklers, and then start walking towards the switch. Outnumbered, Ajin can't possibly hold them back. It seems the outcome is inevitable. At the critical moment, Wei finally arrives. He quickly rushes into the control room and shuts off the main valve for the sprinklers at the last second. Meanwhile, Jae Hyuk has also arrived at the pharmaceutical plant. He rams the gate open with the truck, then threatens the staff with a pistol, forcing them to reveal the location of the raw materials warehouse. He finally succeeds in finding the raw materials, but he is only one person, and the moving speed is too slow. He thought the staff chasing him would stop him, but unexpectedly, they all came to help. Everyone helps load the truck. It turns out that after the government learned of the executive's conspiracy, they ordered them to unconditionally hand over all raw materials and the formula. At the same time, they summoned other pharmaceutical companies to go into full production of the dewormer. Soon, Jae Hyuk delivers the raw materials to the production line, and the factories immediately begin working around the clock to produce the dewormer. It is then rushed to all parts of the country. At the end of the movie, every patient receives the medicine, and the crisis is finally averted. And the company executives who deliberately caused the disaster get the punishment they deserve. But, unknown to everyone, a corpse has already drifted down the river and out to the open sea.